Hey, and we're here.
Hey, everybody.
Sorry, it's one of those with like watching the counter. Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah,
Counting down, down, and then it's like, oh yeah, and then we look like this when it comes online. So anyway, hello everybody. It's Friday. It's been a little while. We've had quite a bit going on around here. We had the amp class. What was it? 2 weekends ago?
Yep, 2 weekends
Yeah.
ago.
So we had to do a lot of prep work and everything else to get that done. I meant to do a live stream while we were doing the class, but man, once it got going, man, it was full tilt. So.
Yeah, we didn't have much downtime on that class. So.
No, it was a good class.
Yeah.
It'd been since April since we've done our last class. So it was good to kind of get back into it again.
Yeah, it was nice.
So a lot of good guys that came out. Really enjoyed the class. People were excited about it. Quite a few guys were just like, I built it, and they're just like,
excited.
See them kind of come alive after building it. So it was great. Even had a father-son build one of them.
Yep.
So that was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. It was a full class, so we're very fortunate.
Yeah.
And it was funny that we had, like you were saying, we have 2 people in there that have never even dreamt of doing something like that, and they're real apprehensive when they start. And by the end of the first day, they're like just blown away how easy it can be to actually build an amp.
Yeah. And the biggest thing was just kind of breaking it down, and again, because I could see it, you could see it in their eyes, and they're going, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
It's like, here, start here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was a good class, really good.
Yeah, definitely. So, but as you guys are jumping on, as always, let him know where you guys are watching from. Like I said, I kind of did a last minute post of going, oh, hey, we're going to go live. So, but again, a lot of irons in the fire this past 2 weeks. So, got a couple projects working on for artists that kept me running wide open. So, but anywho, let's see here. Let's see. We do. Speaking of classes, is it been official yet, or is it in the works still?
For Roberto Venn?
Roberto, yeah.
Yeah. There. We have a class coming up in January for Roberto Venn out in Arizona. We're going to be posting. If we haven't already posted, I thought they were going to post something today, but apparently not. Maybe, I don't know. But it will be up on our Facebook page next week, and of course we'll have some advertisement for it on the website as well. And I think Roberto Venn's already started advertising because he mentioned he had already sold a few seats. So if you guys want to get on that class, sure to head over there. That is a really cool class to have it at Roberto Venn. So
oh yeah, definitely
nice people, and is the epicenter for all things custom guitar.
Oh yeah, the crazy amount of stuff.
It is. And that's where all the big guys, PRS, Collins, Fender, Gibson. That's where they get recruit the luthiers that come out of there. So it's really nice to represent the electronic side, and at a school that primarily does luthiery guitar work. So it's a really good fit. Every time we have a really good time out there. I mean, I like Arizona. I like it a lot. I didn't think I would, but because it was so hot. And the first class we did there, we stepped off the airplane and got out in the terminal. It was 113 degrees, and I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good.
Yeah, here we are. We're coming from here where it's like 80 something degrees.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't bad at all. I keep wind moving. It's fine. I was really surprised. It's a beautiful area too. Good food. And people are really nice. But yeah, Phoenix, Arizona, January 21st and 21st, 22nd, I believe.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for that if you're having any interest in it. So
yeah, I think there's 20 seats. Maybe?
20 seats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Max.
Sweet. Yeah. Definitely want to max. We're maxing out at 20 on that. So that way we're not too crazy running around. Yeah. So, but so yeah, if you're interested, keep watch on Facebook, Instagram, Roberto Venn. So we'll be putting that information up as soon as we get it. Let's see here. A couple things I guess we wanted to kind of hit on this week. Yeah, we've gotten kind of an influx of questions about like on the blackface kits about the brass plates. You know, and basically, and what that came from a video of Terry over at D-Lab, where he had a Deluxe reverb come in that was hum issues, buzz issues, whatever, and he ended up going with the brass plate and putting that in there and using that as kind of a fix per se. And really, it's not so much the brass plate is not really the fix. It was more what Fender used, and that was more of like an assembly bit.
Yeah, it was a production decision because they could speed up production because they didn't have they didn't need to sand off the chassis in that particular area. Of course, they still did on some of them, you know, in the power supply, but it was a lot easier for them on the line to keep things moving to actually solder onto the brass plate versus the chassis itself. And they also had an issue, and we'll see that sometimes with older amps, vintage amps coming through here, that when you do solder on the chassis, the solder and the actual steel of the chassis, 16 gauge, I think it is, expand and contract at a different rate. So you're always going to be popping those the solder joints off of the actual chassis, and they knew that, and that was their workaround for that. Yeah, like Steve was saying, it promotes better shielding now because the pots were mounted to 16 gauge steel, so it was the whole chassis was a shield. It didn't really do anything. You could achieve the same effect with running a bus wire across the back of the pots. Sure. I mean, that's the cheaper way to do it. We had actually looked into getting those manufactured, and it was just going to be so expensive for the purpose that most people think you would use it for shielding. It's not, and it was just one of those added expenses and another part that we had in there. It's not necessary at all, really. If you build your amp right, and do the proper grounding, like you should. We'll hit upon that in a minute. Yeah. You don't need it, really. If you're making 1,000 of them, I would do that because you can shave 10 minutes off a chassis just by using the brass plates. But
sure,
that was that. So.
Yeah, and it kind of comes down to running proper grounds. Grounding is everything in these amps. Even more so when you get into high gain stuff. JCM 800 and above as far as gain levels. And really, if you look at the way that the Fender amps did their grounds, you had your ground coming in off the AC right there at the chassis. You had your filament center tap, if it had it, high voltage center tap, Faraday shield, all that stuff, grounded right there at that point in the chassis. You had your first filter stage grounding right over there. And then everything else, preamp and all the way down, all grounded at the other end of the chassis. And that's kind of how you want to do it. Ideally, you hear different things about star grounding. Star grounding is good in certain applications. Hi-fi amps, perfect, because you want everything to be as quiet as you can. I mean, ideally it'd be on every amp, really. But when you start adding more gain stages, that's when things start escalating, get more complicated of how you have to ground it. Sometimes you have to put PV used them in a bunch of theirs. It was like little 47 ohm flame resistant resistors in between the certain ground points to the chassis, and that was just to kind of like not necessarily isolate it, but kind of block that little section off. It's probably the best way I can explain it.
Yeah.
Right. But and then everything else would always ground down here towards the input jacks, and if you start putting a bunch of different ground points over here and there, and you try to solder to the chassis, and you don't have a good chassis type iron, like one that has one about as big as my thumb,
150 watt.
Oh yeah. If you don't have one of those, and you're trying to do like a little 15 watt, 30 watt iron, you'll never get the chassis hot enough, and you won't have a good ground. You'll have buzz.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that we've heard on, and we listen, and we like to kind of touch base with whatever needs to be touched on. So
yeah, grounding it's a tough thing, and like Steve was saying, it varies from amp to amp. And most people, they won't be able to. It's hard enough to solder to the back of the pot sometimes, like Fender did, with the Tweeds and things like that. But it's having a solder to the chassis, and a lot of people don't understand that chassis that's being used is actually it's what they call a galvanneal. It has a coating on it, so if you don't get that coating off 100%, it's a zinc lead based coating to prevent rust, and it's basically galvanized steel. it will come off. It just comes right off. So,
but if you get it on there right, it's a bear to
yeah,
get it off.
it is. It really is. You have to sand the chassis down to the point you want to solder in, and use a big old hefty soldering iron to do it. So,
like ones that I see that like ones that do like plumbers and stuff like that.
Yeah, the big ones are 3/4 inch in diameter, and they just hold it right on the chassis for 3 minutes to heat it up, and
just don't touch the chassis afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hot. You reach underneath it right afterwards.
Warm.
But they still, the odd thing about that was that Fender's still using those brass plates. They still solder to the chassis sometimes for the some of the amps that were cathode, or excuse me, fixed bias. They'd solder right there to the chassis by the socket. They would solder the main ground sometimes that came into the chassis right by the power transformer. So it was kind of a mismatch of all kind of weird things going on there. The brass plate started around, I think it was 62, mid 62 into the brown face. They started doing that. They did not do that on the Tweeds. At least, rather, what I should say is I've never seen a Tweed that had a brass plate in it. Yeah. So yeah, brass plates there's voodoo with those things. So
yeah, and they're. I don't know if you guys watch any of the JHS stuff. He hits on a lot of the myth stuff that gets thrown out there, and we have to kind of navigate our way around a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I think somebody posted on our Facebook group the other day about what was it? Was it Champ or something like that? They're like asking about buying the Mercury magnetics and the Jupiter caps. I'm like, it's a 5-watt amp. You won't hear any difference. I mean, the thing you want to do is you want to like dime that thing out, because that's what you do with a Champ.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I mean, come on, Right. Part of it is they used what they had, and we get as close to what they had back then, and the rest is up to you guys as the players.
Yeah.
So it's all in the hands. So.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. I totally lost my train of thought. I was going to think of something here.
That was good.
Yeah. so back, when these amps were being made, and I think I brought this up several times before, and we hit upon it in the class. I get emails about this all day long. We get a lot of people that say most popular, say the 5E3 Deluxe. We get a lot of people that say, well, I fell in love with the 5E3. And it's, what I throw back at them is that which one did you fall in love with? Not realizing that, when the 5E3 was designed, they had 110 volts. Even though the paperwork says on some of the drawings and later stuff that it was 117, it was still 110. So if you fast forward, 50 years and plug that 110 volt design circuit into 120, 125 volts, it's a different amp.
Oh yeah.
So, I had a question today about lowering the voltage in the 5E3 to see what it actually sounded like, 50 years ago. And we have the 756 LV, which is a lower high voltage secondary in it that does just that. I have seen builders also, they'll use a stock transformer like what we have in the Princeton and the Champ, the Tweeds, and they'll put a huge dropping resistor in there, a power dropping resistor, to bring that down about 20 or 30 volts to get it into that ballpark that, the way it sounded exactly 50, 60 years ago without the hum.
Right.
So, it's a very strange thing, and a lot of people don't realize that. And that goes for a lot of different amps. The older Marshalls, they had a problem when they were being made for 240 volts, and they would ship them over here, and they were made for 110 volts, and it started to do some wacky things and sound a little bit different. And then they realized to even that out, they would use 6550s in some of the amps. So yeah, it was a very real problem, and you have to think about that again. Another reason I'm bringing it up is for designers. You have to think about that when you design a circuit, because if you're going to design around the 5E3 using the 5E3 using the stock transformers with the stock B plus, and you want to increase your rectifier to say a silicon diode or a 5E4 or GC34, you have to be really careful, because the caps most of the time are rated at 475 volts. And with a 5Y3, you're already approaching 440 volts or something like that. So you can the second you drop a 5U4 GC34 in there, you can actually blow a filter cap. There's a whole bunch of reasons why, but that's the main reason, because it throws that voltage way up, becomes more efficient, and the circuit just can't handle it sometimes. So.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting thing there as far as like the voltages and such. Somebody had brought up on one of the groups about wanting us to do like an AC4 type amp, and I got looking into that, and man, that amp was only running 250 volts on the plates, and it was like, it's definitely they weren't pushing for high voltage and let's push the amp to the limit, whatever. They're just like, we just need something to amplify.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the thing about it. So
simple, very few parts.
Oh, yeah.
Very few parts.
Well, it depends on what you're doing. Let's see here. Hang on. Helps if I hit. There it is. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where my mouse went. Sorry, there it goes. Hope you're doing well. 2 weeks out, still loving Deluxe. Awesome. Glad to hear, man. Let's see here. Is it possible to use the Deluxe with an 8-ohm Torpedo Captor X? It's attenuating speakers. Absolutely. Basically, what you would do there is you would put your Torpedo X in between the output of the amp and the speaker, and do it like that. Make sure when you go to do that you plug it into the jack that is next to the 6V6s.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you plug into the extension jack and you'll get nothing out. So yeah, we're totally fine with that, and especially in that situation there. Yeah. So cool.
Now, one thing I want to hit upon that with one thing. We get this question in class a lot. If you want to use attenuators, and we also get a lot of emails about this on certain amps, especially Tweed amps. Tweed amps, when they came out, of course, they were, they had the certain circuitry known as the Tweed, different, be it either fixed bias or cathode bias, whatever amp you got. A good portion of the tone from those amps themselves came from the cabinet, and the speaker combination. If you look at the 5E3 Deluxe, or even look at the Champ, it has a floating baffle that's only held in by 4 screws, number 6 screws. The bigger ones, like the Baseman, only had 6, and that's mounted through a little 1/4-inch, narrow panel at the top and bottom of the cab. So the actual baffle was moving all over the place, and that contributed to a major part of the tone of the Tweed. The reason I bring that up is because sometimes, like amp simulators, when you're doing a Tweed, it doesn't sound like a Tweed at all. It doesn't react or anything, and that's a very hard thing. Even cab simulators, it's a extremely hard thing to reproduce in software, versus an actual Tweed cabinet, because it's just so dynamic. There's just so many things going on there. Unlike a blackface that was made to be very rigid. And they thought about this too, and a lot of people don't understand and consider this, that when they went to the brownface era, what they were trying to do was solidify the cabinets. They're trying to make the amp as tight as it could possibly be, so all you hear is the amp and maybe the speaker, depending on the model. So to stiffen that cabinet up, they were still using the same materials. They were using pine, but to stiffen that cabinet up, they made the chassis the entire width of the top of the cabinet and held in place with 4 screws with chassis straps. That was an evolution not only to help ease the maintenance and the actual building, you have more real estate to put things in there. It actually solidifies that cabinet. It's like a big steel brace across the top of that cabinet to keep it from moving around. That, coupled with the fact that it wasn't a floating baffle anymore, they were mounted from the front and used twice as much hardware to hold them in. So they were completely different animals. And that, if you want to compare the two totally different animals, and that's a good portion of the reason why they were that way. Not just the circuit. There was a lot of other physical things that were just totally different between the two. So, sorry.
No. Good, man.
But a lot of people don't understand, that there was a lot of thought that went into these things that most people don't even think about. When you look at amps, it's like, oh, you're so used to seeing a blackface like that, but to actually, understand why they did what they did, it was a tenfold thing. It wasn't just one simple fix they had. They fixed the circuit. They used better transformers. They, stepped up the tube quality. They went to different tube sockets. Then they modified the chassis. Then they modified the baffle. Then they used different speakers, because they're always pushing, trying, to be the king of clean. Nobody wanted overdrive back then. So.
Oh Let's see here. Perhaps a noob question. What's the difference between a Tweed and a Tweed twin and a Blackface twin? Um, the Tweed twin's more of like a baseman in a way.
Well, it depends on what twin.
Yeah.
Low power or high power?
Yeah, it was like because low power is totally different.
Yeah, low power was kind of like a basement almost, sort of.
Well, then there was one of them that had 4 independent inputs, to where you couldn't stack them together. I think that was low power.
Yeah, low power were in a line. I remember right, and the high power had the 4 like the basement. I can't remember.
The long and short of it is EQ is a little bit different. Power section is pretty close to the same. The Tweed was also tube rectified versus solid state rectified on the Blackface, so you had higher voltages. Twin also had a ton of negative feedback coming into the phase inverter to help take that whole power amp and keep it focused. That's why you can take a twin and get like 5 or 6, and by that time the windows are blowing out, the roof's flying out the house, but it's not breaking up. Versus a Tweed that kind of like almost sounds like it's imploding. Not in a bad way. It's obviously look at like
very compressed,
like Von Amundsen. That's kind of his thing,
right? Yeah.
But yeah.
So they were, even though they were the same models, separated by, of course, there was a brown twin in there too, but that was the evolution. They went from, being at that time, that was the highest power amp you get, the 5F8 versus, 5F8A versus the 5E8 low power. That was probably one of the amps that evolved the most, because if you look back at the prior years of that,
they haven't changed a bunch.
5C8, 5D8, E8, dual rectifier, which was one of the first ones, and then they went totally out of left field and started using GZ34 rectifier and that, and other things. So, but yeah, it's a different animal altogether.
Yeah.
So they're both heavy.
Yeah, definitely have roadies for sure. Let's see here. So any word on the British 50? I guess that's 50 watt 800 power transformer being back in stock. Can't finish my build without that.
We got some late today. I don't know if they were in with that. I'm not sure what the number is, but we've started to see an increase in hay mower deliveries, especially for the larger stuff. I still need to get some stuff for the the Tweeds, but any day, honestly. Do I have an actual ETA? No, I don't. If you email me, ajohnson@mojotone.com or tech@mojotone.com, I can certainly get with purchase guys and figure out, get you a ballpark when that will be in. But I'm so far removed from purchasing and receiving, I'm not really sure what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. and it's one of those, like, we get stuff almost every day from Haybor.
Yeah.
But we have such a wide variety of transformers that we carry. We're kind of getting in what we can get, and then it goes right back out the door. So, but like I said, if you bought like a kit, obviously, as soon as those transformers get in there, right back out the door. So, because I believe the kits get the priority.
So, kits and bag orders.
Yeah.
And then if we have them in stock, then we'll put them in stock. So.
Right. So, but definitely.
Yeah, email me and I'll figure out for you.
Sure.
Certainly. Because today it was like 8 different models, but we got 5 of one, 15 of one, 20 of one. So it was real sporadic. They're doing them, as they can get them out the door. So
yeah,
hopefully they'll be caught up by the end of the year. They're headed that way. We also found another supplier that I believe we might start using. Don't know if that's going to go through or not, but that'll be announced probably towards the end of the year if we're doing that as well. Because we kind of had all our eggs in one basket with Haybor. We do deal with a couple other companies for smaller stuff, but we need to get something to supplement Haybor, because it opened our eyes a lot. When this pandemic hit and we realized all our vendors weren't working, and put all your eggs in one basket for that, and it runs out. It's like it was horrible. So we're gradually getting back up on our legs. So yeah. Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you both. Not a problem, man.
Sorry I don't have a date for you right now.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, we kind of take it as a day by day kind of thing. For the most part, everything's, we're trucking along. We hit speed bumps here along the way, that kind of stuff. So, but we're we're doing all right.
Yeah, we're doing a lot better than we were, say, 9 months ago. I'll say that.
So, and something a bunch of you guys were asking as far as classes too, wanting to do something other than a 5e3. We've been trying to hit around a couple of things and kind of run into the roadblock of time, being able to have you guys assemble the kit, that kind of stuff there, and be able to get done in that amount of time. So we're kind of working on some different ideas. Maybe maybe something that is not, we'll say, it'll be based around one of the actual kits or circuits, whatever, but maybe a trimmed down version. That way we can eliminate some extra stuff, simplify the circuit a little bit, and make it to where assembly is easier for in a kit, or not a kit, but a class perspective. So I've been turning that up here for a little bit. So I've got a few ideas. As long, it like I said, it'd be one of those that it would not, or it would be a simplified version of something else, of one of our other kits.
Right.
But I'll keep you posted as we go.
Yeah.
More. Let's see here. Any plans for new kits? Well, we have that guy, which you can't see. Hang on. I get the forklift out. All right. There you go. There's the 50-watt custom. That's our newest one. Hang on. Throw the back out. Okay. I'm good.
That's a beast.
That's on the 50-watt. But,
yeah.
But that's the latest one so far. What's Manny been working on? I think
it's right now up until New Year's. This time of the year, we focus on really shoring up what we have, what we come out through the year, during the year.
I'm sure he was going through kits the other day.
Yeah, we were going through all of them, revamping the wiring diagrams, schematics, the bombs. Some of them are out of date. Some of the wiring diagrams we haven't touched in 5-6 years. So we're we have this new program that we use, DIYLC, that it's really nice as a color layout, a lot better than what we had before in AutoCAD, which is a one-dimensional drawing. But this has got colors and it'll show you traces and different things. And the thought is down the road, I actually started on drawing some of the 3D boards. Boards are actually 3D, so you can flip them over and around. But I ran into a software problem with that. But yeah, right now, no new kits in the pipeline until we get after the first of the year.
Yeah.
Then we'll start hitting it hard again. We're trying to do, I think John will shoot for about 3 a year for the next couple of years, because we have a lot of requests for odds and ends. And like Steve was saying, he's the modification master over here that can take a you take a regular amp, strip it down, and make it into something completely different that's more digestible and easier to make. So we're gonna head in that direction too, because honestly, who wants to drag around a 59 plexi? I mean, it's one of those amps that everybody wants but nobody buys.
Yeah. But one of the things I've seen here lately, and I think different people talk about it, because now with like the Captor X and the aux box and everything else, you can get those 100 watts now and be able to go turn them off. Yeah. Which is great. There's still nothing standing in front of a giant full stack and getting your face blown off. Yeah. Which actually we had an artist that we're sending out some 412 cabinets to, and my office is actually right above this room here, and this is kind of on behind this is the rest of our testing room. I'm sitting out there, working away, and all of a sudden I'm like up here vibrating because the floor is rumbling.
Yeah, that was whew.
And
that was tough.
Simmons had our 5150, like OG 5150, through 2 412s and just like cranking. And they came down here. I'm just like, that's nice. Couldn't hear anything for a few minutes, but
Yeah, and that's such a hard thing to replicate.
Oh yeah,
so hard. But you can't. I mean,
no. It's one thing to have the sound here, but it's a whole nother thing to feel it just like pummeling you. It's great. So
it was funny because you'd have people in here and he was jamming out and doing some heavy metal stuff, and again, the room's not big and we have a door in and a door out, and you see somebody come in and hear what was going on, and they step in and then they right back out the other door.
Yeah,
because it was so loud.
It was so loud. but it sounded great though.
Yeah, it does. They're incredible.
Yeah, we hadn't had a chance to really crank up some stuff here lately. We need to do that more.
Yeah.
Who didn't smash the like button? I have no idea. I can't see that on the screen, unfortunately, so it's all good. Let's see here. So surely been something about another amp. The Blackout series is crazy good.
Good.
Thanks.
Good.
Awesome.
What Blackout do you have?
I wonder if it has the Deluxe, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know which one you got there. Let's see here. All of a sudden, you guys posting here. Okay. What are your thoughts on a higher power Princeton reverb using a Deluxe reverb, power transformer, and up to wattage, phase difference, limitation, power, and more? I mean, if you want a higher powered Princeton, build a Deluxe. But if you're trying to keep it in the smaller package, there's a couple limitations. Transformer, maybe a little bit. It's not everything. The other kicker is you have a 10-inch normally in a Princeton versus 12-inch you have in the Deluxe.
Mm-hmm.
If you get like the kit and you order because we're getting to where you have to do the cabinet separately, order the cabinet with a 12-inch cutout and put 12 in there. That boosts the volume up. Also, one other thing to look into that a lot of people don't really talk about is the speaker choice. Jensen's normally have, I think, an efficiency rating of like 94, 95.
Very low.
Versus like a Celestion that could have anything from like 97 to 101.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take, you go from like a low efficiency speaker to a high efficiency speaker and not touch anything else on the amp, all of a sudden you're like 3-4 dB louder, I think it is. And it makes a huge difference. Yeah. Now, what you're asking there as far as the phase inverter, that kind of thing there, yes, I actually have two of them upstairs where I did that too. Because for me, I don't ever use tremolo, so I have no use for it. So what I did is I took out the tremolo part of it and built a long tail phase inverter, which is the same type of phase inverter that's in a Deluxe reverb, and that helped give a little more push, a little more signal to the 6v6s.
Yeah, that thing screams.
Oh yeah, I mean it's loud, but you still get the clean.
It's usable.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, and actually I built it in a. Was it the Vibrochamp one I built it? Yeah. I built it in a Vibrochamp head, so it's like this big. So it's great. But yeah, I mean, there's a few things you can tweak. You can bump the voltage up going to the preamp, get a little more headroom out of that too. So yeah, all kinds of different things you can do. Let's see here. Which way am I going? There we go. Sorry. Glad you guys are still cranking. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are always running. So
yeah,
I've got quite a few projects I'm working on, trying to figure out which one to go. So, what is causing long lead times on amp kits?
Everything.
Suppliers
are falling through. Vendors are, of course, most of our electronics come from China. Unfortunately, we would deal with the same supply houses that you guys deal with for a lot of our equipment, and China just has not been able to keep up with anything. So we're trying to source stuff here domestically, but it's become a nightmare.
Everybody's playing catch up.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, our steel vendor, we still get chassis, and we do a lot of stuff in house, like our cabinets and the faceplates we do for everything. So that's not a problem. But again, it comes back to transformers. Certain resistors, for whatever reason, like 220K and 100Ks keep selling out, and it's just a weird thing. But logistically, for our supply chain, it's just a nightmare right now. Because you look at a kit like a Deluxe reverb, you're looking at close to 250 parts in that thing. So there's a lot of moving parts that we have to orchestrate together to get all that stuff in. And sometimes it's hard enough on a regular day, but when you start plucking vendors out and manufacturers out, it just becomes a nightmare. And that's where we're at right now. I thought we would have felt it a lot sooner than we do right now. I thought we would have felt this towards the beginning of the year, but for whatever reason, it's taken us this long for it to really hit home, see what's going on. So we apologize for the delays, but we will certainly get it out as fast as we can. And we're actually scanning eBay for parts for some resistors and caps, and just to get the stuff in here so we can get it out. So
trust me, we don't want you guys having to wait on kits. We know you're eager like us to work on stuff and build things. So yeah, we definitely want to get it out to you as quick as we can. Let's see here. This is a great question. Yes, definitely a good question there. Yeah. Very interesting in this topic. Oh, as far as doing that, cool. Sorry, I get to see these as I'm pulling them up here. Any thoughts on a build guide for the brown face Reverb? That one's a bear. I don't have it in the works yet. In fact, actually, a lot of the manuals are kind of on. No, actually, we took and built the manuals for a lot of the beginner based ones like Champ, Deluxe, the Princetons. We went up to, I think the JTM 45 was the most complex one we did.
Yeah.
And the reason being is once you get to that point there, as far as your builds, you've got some builds under your belt. You've got experience as far as assembly, how to build the chassis together, and as far as mechanics, and then the boards, that kind of stuff there. So by the time you get to taking on like a brown face Reverb or a Twin or high watt and like that, you know what you're doing.
You should.
Yeah, you should know what you're doing. I'm sorry. You should have an idea as far as like, okay, well, here I need to make sure that I assemble it in this way and take into account the layout and that kind of stuff there. So that's why on the more complex ones we haven't put together a manual,
right?
Because like you mentioned, once you get to that level, you should be able to do it without a manual and just follow diagram and schematic. So
because
that way.
There's a lot of things in building an amp like that in particular, and the larger blackface stuff that the manual won't cover.
No.
Like lead dress, you shouldn't do this certain thing with lead dress with fenders. Filament supplies. Keep in mind all these amps, from the simplest to the most complex that we have. 80% of the technology is in that shared among amps, like the power supplies, the filament supplies for both rectifier and your regular tubes. Your preamp section, they're going to be very similar. If they're not very similar, then the broad view, the 30,000 foot view, is that you go into those builds with the same mindset that you learned these processes of building an amp. They just carry over. You build the Champ the same way you would build the Reverb. It's just more parts. And again, some certain things that manuals won't tell you. So yeah, we did start manuals way back when I first started here, and I realized that with the larger amps like that, a lot of people already do have build experience under their belt, and it actually raised more questions than it did answer anything. Because we had people asking why we did things a certain way and why we couldn't do it this way or that way, and that's where it kind of went off the rails. So yeah, it's with anything like this, any amp that you build, you got to set yourself up for success. Yeah, manuals are nice, but they shouldn't be a crutch at all, ever. Because at the end of the day, you can go through a manual from beginning to end, go light it off, and it don't work. Manual's not going to tell you what that is. You need to figure out, have the basis of what is actually going on in that amp to help yourself. Because the more complex the amp, the harder it is to get help with it, to get, help building it. So that's kind of the way we look at things right now, and it's worked very well. That coupled with the tech support we have, I'm on emails. Steve and John are on emails. All the tech stuff that comes through, we'll get more than 50 emails a day. But we're on top of it all the time, and we pride ourselves in that. So don't think if you buy a kit like that, you're out of luck. You're stuck by yourself. You're not. I mean, just email us, and we can help you work through it. Have yet to see one that we can't really work through. So just take your time, set yourself up for success, and that's the key to everything. So
let's see here. You guys are still building kits for us, right? I don't see the option of fully assembled kits.
No, we nixed some of them for now. When we had that up on the site, there, keep in mind, manufacturing, we only have 2 or 3, including myself, qualified builders that can actually build this stuff. I think we're a little bit smaller than what a lot of people think. And when you're looking at amps that take in between 8 and 10 hours to build, for one person, we start getting backlogs of 20 or 30 amps. We still have to keep our OEM side rolling, which we make amps for as well. So we had to, it was starting to get out of control where our lead months were turning to 4 or 5 months, and that's not fair to anybody. I wasn't comfortable in doing that. So we nixed them. I got caught up more or less. We still have a bunch, but we're going to be pre-assembling a lot of the ones like the Deluxe and the Champ for now are going to be out soon. We're going to stock those regularly. And hopefully after the new year, when things start to calm down and manufacturing ramps back up to where we were, a year and a half ago, yeah, we will. We're going to open that way, but open it back up because it was a unique thing because Mojotone is really the only place you can go to get an amp like that. The stock, you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. It was built the way it was built before with the same materials and everything else. Hardly anybody does that. Yeah, you can get replicas that have been modified to the hill for them and pay $1,700 or whatever, depending on the model. But yeah, we did find a niche in that. And it was like, yeah, we can do it. Oh no, look at these orders. So it was one of those.
We opened it and it went.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. So yeah, we had to cancel that for now, but it'll come back. It will. That's what we do. We're good at that. We're one of the best at doing that. So yeah, it will be back.
Let's see here. Hire me, I'll move down there and build them for you. Nice. Nice. Yeah, we've got a couple people that do build the amps, man. They get in there and they're like dead focused, and they crank them out quick.
Yeah, they're very good quality. We take our time on them. We don't shortcut anything. We try to do it the best we can. I mean, it speaks for itself because when I first started here, we didn't even want to do amps like that.
Right.
11 years ago, and one of the owners was like, no, we can't do that because it's just we don't have the manpower to not only build the amps on a consistent basis, but to back them up in case something happens. Yeah. But it's really come around to where we started doing that, and we realized, wow, we've been missing a lot of business because we weren't doing that.
Sure, so. Yeah, because I mean, we do some OEM builds for different companies and stuff like that. So we have trying to factor in like a one piece build versus building 10 or 20 at a time.
Right.
It creates a bottleneck, obviously.
Yeah, and there's again, we don't have many people, so 2 or 3 days we'll work on one particular amp, then we'll work on something else, then we'll work on something else. So we have to shoehorn all that stuff in there. And when we're building 10 amps for our OEM, we realize we really lose our efficiencies when we're building 1 or 2 of these amps at a time for customers. That's why when we did offer those as regular build kits, we do not modify them whatsoever. We do not do it. Because too many times people have read something on the internet like you got to have the Fritz mod or something in your Deluxe reverb, and we go to do that and you get it and this isn't anything like I thought it was. So it's not. Yeah. So start with the foundation of a build amp or a complete one yourself, and again then you modify it to what you actually need, not what somebody tells you you need.
Yeah.
Which is 2 totally different things usually.
Definitely. So. Cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to hit on. Can't think of anything else really. So.
Happy late Halloween.
Oh yeah, late Halloween. Yeah. So.
Good times, and the festival season's starting to open back up.
Oh yeah,
we're starting to get concerts coming through here, and already had a few artists, locally stop by that were, starting to pick back up again. With a lot of artists that we're starting to build things for, and Steve's working on one particular Skunk Works amp that we're building for an artist. So it's really coming around. You wouldn't know it going to the website and see everything, but behind the works, we've got speaker cabinets, all this stuff going. Because you figure the Southern Hemisphere right now is going into their summer, so of course they have concerts down there too. So we're supplying them. Coupled with the fact that we have Christmas coming up, so we're trying to get a lot of the stuff back in stock so we actually can sell it. We only make money if we can sell things. So,
let's see here. Oh, this is a great question here. Which amp is best for pedals? In the words of Tone Talk, it depends.
It all depends.
There is no right answer. It depends on what you want. And for everybody, it's completely different. Yeah. Some people may like the super clean headroom with no breakup, whatever. That may be their thing. That's great. That's, in that case, they're a Princeton reverb, a Deluxe reverb, depending on how much power you need. But then there's the other side of the coin, which is, like for me, I like my amp just crunching just a little bit, and then that way I can hit it and kind of pummel it, and that's what I like. So it really depends on what you like. Like I said, if you want the super clean headroom and you want all of your sound, all your overdrives to be strictly pedals, then anything like Deluxe, Twin, Super, and all that, or high watt, as I see somebody mentioned there a second ago, go for that. For me, like I said, I like a Marshall that is just starting to cut loose, and then I'd take a boost and slam the snot out of it, make it scream. So, but that's me, that's you. So that's the great thing about this stuff here. There is no right answer.
Right.
So, well, there's no right answer, no exact answer. How about that? So, twin reverb and high watt, yeah. So
it also depends on you have to consider going into this before you even buy pedals. The amp you have, do you want to make that amp sound better, or do you want to make that amp do something it wasn't designed to do?
Yeah.
So you got to start with that foundation, because that's two completely different roads you're going down there. If you just want a modeler amp, just go with a clean amp like a high watt, or like Steve said. But if you have an old Marshall that you just need a little bit of, you want it to go to 11, then a tube screamer is all you need, or DS1, or a clone Centaur.
Yeah.
But
well, and to kind of give you guys a great example here, when this is years and years ago, one of the guys that works here played in a band, and they had two guitar players. His setup was on. He had a JCM 800 on one side and a JCM 900 with him, two 412s, and on the other side was a high watt 100 watt full stack that he was running pedals. The Marshalls won.
Yeah.
But again, totally different type setup, whatever. But when you get into, like, say if you have two guitars or that kind of thing there, it all depends on how you mix them together. Fenders have that scoop, and that important mid-range frequency is missing in a mix. Yeah. That's where for me, that's where the Marshall kind of cuts through and sits in the mix a little bit better. But it also depends on the music style. So there's no exact answer for it, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I digress. Okay. See, I don't have the budget for more than one amp. Okay. I want to build Deluxe reverb as a first. I've heard that's a bad idea. Yes. But I'm determined to have some experience building pedals. Any advice? Don't build a Deluxe reverb as your first amp. I wouldn't do that. If you've never built an amp before, don't. If you're wanting to do something like that, man, the good old tried and true is the 5E3. It'll take pedals all day long. You can crank it up and make it overdrive like crazy. But again, that's not to say that you couldn't do something, say, down the road after you get one underneath your belt. And even then, you might be able to pull off a Princeton reverb. Princeton reverb is definitely another level up above Deluxe. Princeton, again, is pretty much the smaller brother of the Deluxe. Still have reverb, still have tremolo, a little bit different tremolo, and lower powered, obviously. But that's something you could look into there. Take your time. Don't rush it. Don't get in there and go, okay, I got to do all these different things, whatever. You can I think I actually put together a manual for the Princeton reverb, I think. If anything, you could also look at the manual for the Tweed Deluxe and take the basics of how we tell you to assemble it and apply it to the next amp up, to your Princeton, and do it that way. So,
but yeah, Deluxe reverbs, that's a tricky amp.
Yeah.
Don't let a small size fool you.
No. Not only do you have two channels in the thing, which again, it's not channel switching, but you have tremolo and you got reverb, which is very finicky. if you don't get the lead dress right, the tremolo will bleed into the system, and then you get the ticking, and you can have a really noisy reverb if you don't do that right. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration, though.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah,
That's to bite that off as your first amp. That's a tough one.
We've seen it happen, and it's usually not good.
Yeah.
I've seen one or two where because think about it this way: if that's your first build, you're saying, well, it's not working. It's like, okay, well, what's it doing? What's it not doing? And if you don't have, like, say, a little bit of experience, you wouldn't be able to describe what's actually going on. And that kind of helps to be able to know the terminology a little bit. Kind of helps us be able to troubleshoot it with you. Versus like, it's not working. Well, what's not working? Is it blowing a fuse? Have you tried this? And that's where we had to kind of go through and do kind of the checklist. Well, have you tried this? And then you end up with 30, 40 email list, long. So
it's
I don't know where I was going with all that, but
no, it's a tough amp.
So
it is. It really is. That's the beginning of that, and the 45 are really the beginning of the tough amps.
Yeah,
the intermediate.
Yeah, those are intermediate, and then you get those guys, which are like, wizard level.
Yeah, they're way up there.
Like I haven't even tackled one of these yet. So, but I build like those were. So yeah, I'm very OCD when I wear. So
a good option for you if you want a deluxe reverb is that I've seen several people get lucky and do this. They'll actually go on like GuitarCenter.com or Sam Ash or even Reverb and find an older silver face, like a 75 or 76, and those get knocked around a lot and people don't like them for whatever reason. I don't know why, because they're great amps. With very little modification, and even if it needs a repair, it's usually nothing major. At the very worst, it'd be a power transformer, which is $89, but you can still get those amps for right around the same price of what a reissue is. And that to me is a really good investment, because you shell out, however much, say $1,000, and that's expensive for an amp, but it's almost an investment piece, because if you got that for $1,000, you can hang on to that for 6 months, try to fix it. And even if you can't fix it, chances are you'll still be able to get your money back for it. If you do fix it, great. You got a wonderful amp, and that's a great platform for modding, those amps, because it's, for less than $15, you can make a blackface out of that same amp. And I think more and more people are realizing that, and they're starting to suck them up everywhere they can find them. So 10 years ago, talking about Silverface, everybody thought they were junk.
Yeah.
No, they weren't ever really junk. They were just, because they're CBS, they were worse. They're not. They're great amps. They really are. So that's a good option for you if you wanted to go that way. Not have to build a deluxe reverb, but if you have to fix it, you can actually learn a little bit by fixing it. You won't screw it up too bad. So
cool. Well, it is about that time, man. So
it is.
So, but I guess we're gonna jump off of here. Everybody have a great weekend. Hopefully, work on some kind of crazy projects and everything else. And don't let the smoke out. Obviously. That's one last thing here. It's great. Get a famous guest on the next video. Show the Tone Talk guys. Nah. Let's see here. You guys know more about the amps than they do. Nah, Friedman's got a lot. He's got a lot of knowledge. A lot of experience, man. He's been in many more amps than I've ever been into.
Right.
So he's got a lot of knowledge as far as what he knows and everything else. And the fact that he gets on there and shares a lot of that stuff, which as a builder, designer, that kind of stuff there, I truly appreciate. So, so I watch the show, so I'm on there. So, but anyways, well, guys, we're going to head on out of here, and you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you guys next time.
Thanks.
See ya.